Guns are part of an American culture. This is a country where we pride ourselves on being free, for allowing people to do what they choose. This includes the freedom of religion, freedom of speech, freedom to vote, as well as the freedom to own a firearm. How would people feel if the government decided to take those rights away? This is the same principle that applies to the abolishment of the Second Amendment. A well-regulated militia being necessary to the security of a free state, the right of the people to keep and bear arms shall not be infringed. This amendment was created to allow the people to defend themselves from a tyrannical government such as what our founding fathers had fled. They wanted to keep that from happening here in the United States. If we took this amendment away, we give the government far more power over us, no different than if they took the First or Fourth Amendment away. It puts far too much power in the hands of government, which is exactly what they were trying to avoid. Keeping the power in the hands of the U.S. citizens is the entire point of the Constitution. Many people in the U.S. die at the hands of gun violence each year. This comes in many different forms like gang violence, criminal activity, and of course, mass shootings. According to the CDC, a total of 33,636 people were killed by firearms in 2018. It should be noted that this does include suicides. The CDC also reported that 14,415 of these deaths were firearm-related homicides. While I agree that that is 33,000 people that did not need to die, it is actually a very small number. According to the United States Census Bureau, there were an estimated 327.3 million people living in the United States. That means that only 0.0001% or 1/10,000th of a percent of the population was killed by firearms. That's a much smaller number than many countries. Something else to consider is that according to Peter Heisch from Forbes.com, guns actually save more lives than they kill. Many people involved in a case dealing with firearms are able to deter an aggressor just by showing that they carry a firearm. Criminals want an easy target. If you show that you're going to put up a fight, then the majority of them will leave. The CDC reports over 66,000 cases of defensive gun uses in 2018. This is actually the smallest number I found, as some reports went as high as 300,000, depending on how you define a defensive gun use. Well, it is a tragedy how many people we lose per year due to gun violence. How come we never hear about the lives saved by firearms? Without guns to protect people, there would have been 66,000 more violent crimes last year. An example of this is the Sutherland Springs mass shooting. A Texas church was holding a mass one Sunday morning when an armed gunman walked in and unfortunately opened fire. According to Jennifer Bratt from AJC.com, a man named Stephen Williford heard the shots coming from the church. He lived just down the street from the church. He grabbed his AR-15 and ran over to engage the shooter. The shooter then fled the scene of the crime and unfortunately took his own life. Stephen saved countless lives that day. The other problem with stricter gun control is that it puts guns into the hands of only a few, which throughout history is a problem. It gives that group far more power than the rest, and if you look at other countries in the past, those who have not had a civilian population possessing firearms have been ruled by a certain group. In some cases, it's a criminal group. In other cases, it's an authoritarian government. Take a look at China, for example, a place where people are not allowed to own firearms. Eric Bacliano from NBC News reports several mass stabbings over the last 4 years. The worst one had over 30 people dead and 130 wounded. No one could stop these men wielding only common kitchen knives, and in the time it took for first responders to get to the scene, they had already caused that many injuries and fled from the scene. They were never caught or convicted of any crimes. The third problem that America faces is a lack of education about firearms. Even our own politicians don't have a great foundation of knowledge about firearms. People don't understand the terminology of firearms or their components and accessories. Few understand what it's like to purchase, own, or operate a firearm. Let's take a look at the common AR-15. This gun is unloaded, by the way. It's a rifle that's been under the spotlight for quite a while now. It's first of all, AR does not stand for assault rifle. It stands for Armalite rifle, which happens to be the first company to produce the rifle. The gun I'd like to compare it to is a World War II era service rifle known as the M1 Grand. This one is also unloaded. The M1 looks like a much tamer rifle with its wood stock and no optic, no foregrip. It looks much different. However, it has almost double the energy coming out of the gun. A second common misconception is that the .223 Remington, which is the round fired by the AR-15, is a powerful man-killing cartridge. You can see that when compared to the .30-06, it's actually much smaller. There's the .223, there's the .30-06. .30-06 was developed in 1906, it's that old. The .223 was brought into military service due only to the fact that it was much smaller and much lighter, allowing troops to walk farther and it was less strain on them. They were tired of carrying heavy ammunition and they were willing to sacrifice ballistics for mobility. Lastly, many people think that AR-15s are not needed to hunt. I've heard many people say that you shouldn't need more than 10 rounds to hunt animals. In most cases, these people are talking about deer hunting, in which case they would be correct. However, in my opinion, the AR-15 isn't powerful enough for deer. In fact, some states actually require you to hunt with bigger cartridges than the .223 Remington. Where it excels is in hunting varmints and pests, where there are several animals grouped up together and you may need to take repeated shots. Thirdly, a term brought up by the media last year was fully semi-automatic. People were using the term to describe regular semi-automatic rifles. A rifle is either classified as semi-automatic or fully automatic. There's no in between. And due to the Firearms Protection Act of 1986, people can no longer own or manufacture fully automatic weapons, which are also known as machine guns. Lastly, an unknown fact is that handguns are far more used in mass shootings. This handgun is unloaded. While people would like to see a ban of AR-style rifles, handguns are far more deadly. According to Statista.com, 143 handguns have been used in mass shootings since the year 1986, as opposed to only 55 rifles. Ultimately, I would really like to see the people who are making our laws learn more about the subject matter. While guns are something that you need to respect and treat with care, they are ultimately something that just puts a hole at whatever it's pointed at. Guns don't cause violence, people cause violence. Firearms are a necessity to our safety and can be a lot of fun to use when done so in a safe and controlled manner. After all, they are a constitutional right.